what your country can do.
Kennedy has been shot.
We choose to be self-evident that all men are created equal.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
From Spice Girls to serial killers, the 90s were packed with adventure. Today, we'll be covering the years 1993 to 1996. After a plateau of technological inventions, the 90s brought about a new era of social media. The World Wide Web, a graphical version of the internet, was invented by Tim Berners-Lee and debuted in 1991. Mosaic, which was the first easy-to-use web browser program, emerged in 1993 and was soon followed by Netscape's Navigator. This introduction of the internet was just the beginning of a total revolution.
1993 was also marked by a plethora of events. One of the major precursors to the infamous terrorist attack, 9/11, was the World Trade Center bombing. On February 26, 1993, a bomb was set off in the parking garage at the bottom of the World Trade Center, which was intended to dislodge the stability of that tower and then topple over to knock down the second tower.
Oh, it was stressful because I had a lot of family and friends that worked in the city, especially downtown. My sister worked down there during that time. So it was a little scary to think that something could happen in a place that was so close to home and that involved so many personal people. And it was definitely big news for a while.
However, that plan fell through, according to Ramzi Youssef, one of the Islamist fundamentalists working with Al-Qaeda who colluded to destroy the epicenter of the U.S. 6 people were killed immediately following the detonation of the bomb, and over 1,000 people were badly injured. This attack, almost 10 years before 9/11, was the ultimate foreshadowing of increased terrorism within the United States. Under Clinton's newly established administration, he issued the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy.
It is right because it provides greater protection to those who happen to be homosexual and want to serve their country honorably in uniform, obeying all the military's rules against sexual misconduct. It is the best way to proceed because it provides a sensible balance between the rights of the individual and the needs of our military to remain the world's #1 fighting force.
It aimed to keep homosexual activity at a minimum within the U.S. military with 2 statutes. The first was to prohibit military personnel discrimination against closeted LGBTQ soldiers and applicants. However, the second was to prohibit openly LGBTQ people from serving in the military. This essentially weeded out the presence of homosexuality in the military and forced gay people to conceal their identities.
So I went to a very conservative school, and this was big news for us when this came out. We were very split. A lot of us saw it as very discriminatory. You have to live in fear and hiding. Other people thought it was exactly what our military needed, so it was very uncomfortable being in the middle of that.
Policymakers believed homosexuals to be promiscuous and could end up instigating trouble within military ranks. However, this policy was repealed after the passage of the Don't Ask, Don't Tell Repeal Act of 2010 under Barack Obama.
Orenthal James Simpson, otherwise known as O.J. Simpson, is an American former football player, playing in the NFL with the Buffalo Bills for 11 seasons. However, Simpson's professional success was overshadowed by his trial and subsequent controversial acquittal for the murders of his wife Nicole Brown and her friend Ron Goldman. On the night of June 12, 1994, Nicole and Ron were found stabbed to death outside Nicole's condo in Brentwood, Los Angeles. After police gathered all the evidence, charges were filed and a warrant was signed for Simpson's arrest. Simpson, in agreement with his attorneys, was scheduled to turn himself in at approximately 11 a.m. to the Parker Center Police Headquarters on the morning of June 17th. Simpson failed to turn himself in, and he later became the subject of a low-speed pursuit by police while riding as a passenger in a white 1993 Ford Bronco SUV.
I watched the chase on my friend's TV in his living room. We were watching it.
TV stations interrupted coverage of the 1994 NBA Finals to broadcast the incident live. With an estimated audience of 95 million people, O.J. Simpson's Integrated Defense Council team included Johnny Cochran, Robert Kardashian, Robert Shapiro, and F. Lee Bailey.
Everybody loved OJ. Everybody loved OJ. So it was kind of hard to believe that this guy would throw it all away by doing this. But he did have a history of domestic violence.
The only physical evidence linking Simpson to the crime was DNA evidence. The defense stated the DNA evidence against Simpson was just not reliable. They said the police compromised the evidence by committing several mistakes when collecting it, including occasionally not changing gloves between evidence items, using one swatch to collect blood from 3 drops of blood on the Bronco dashboard, packaging the swatches of blood evidence using plastic bags and not paper bags as recommended, and storing them in a police van for up to 7 hours unrefrigerated.
The trial was a big joke, but he had definitely the best, some of the better attorneys. Not Johnny Cochran so much, but Barry Scheck. He was the guy that refuted it on DNA evidence. It was probably the sole reason that he got off. Do I think he did it? I don't know. Probably. Can't prove it. So what do I know?
Superior Court of California, County of Los Angeles, in the matter of the people of the state of California versus Orenthal James Simpson, case number BA097211. We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant Orenthal James Simpson not guilty of the crime of murder in violation of Penal Code Section 187A, a felony upon Nicole Brown Simpson, a human being, as charged in count 1 of the information. Superior Court of the State of California, County of Los Angeles, in the matter of the people of the State of California versus Orenthal James Simpson. We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant Orenthal James Simpson not guilty of the crime of murder in violation of Penal Code Section 187A, a felony upon Ronald Lyle Goldman, a human being, as charged in count 2 of the information. We, the jury, in the above entitled action, further find the special circumstance that the defendant, Orenthal James Simpson, has in this case been convicted of at least 1 crime of murder of the first degree and 1 or more crimes of murder of the first or second degree to be not true.
In 1978, an explosive was mailed to Northwestern, injuring a campus police officer. Throughout the next 17 years, the Unabombers sent packages of explosives all over the country. Anyone could be susceptible.
The Unabomber was able to operate for almost 2 decades because he was very meticulous about the way he built his bombs. The Unabomber was able to send 16 successful bombs and maimed dozens of people.
I first heard of the Unabomber event in 1994 when I was a junior faculty member at the University of Chicago. Now, this event was so scary to us because, first of all, I was teaching at the university at a higher education institution. So there was one concern. And the other one was that we were in Chicago, and Chicago was suspected to be related to the Unabomber. And so we were warned to be extra careful and not to open any envelope that is from an unidentified address.
He was kind of off my radar, honestly, at that time because I was in high school, but then there was a bomb sent to someone in New Jersey, and I believe that person died, and that was when it was all of a sudden like, oh my gosh, so the sketch of him was on the TV all the time, and then when he was finally caught, it was really a relief, because that's when I think my friends and I became very aware of just how pervasive his bombs were. They were being sent everywhere.
On December 10th, 1994, the Unabomber sent this 15th bomb to an advertising executive, Thomas Mosser, in North Cadwell, New Jersey. For the residents of New Jersey, an active threat of the Unabomber suddenly became very real.
Another well-known event that occurred during this period is the Oklahoma City bombing. On April 19th, 1995, an ex-Army soldier named Timothy McVeigh parked a truck in front of the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building down in Oklahoma City. The truck held a bomb, composed of a variety of deadly chemicals such as diesel fuel and fertilizer, which had the ability to take down most of the federal building with ease. Once the bomb detonated, over a third of the building was destroyed, along with 300 other surrounding buildings. 168 people were killed following the explosion, which also included 19 children at a daycare center within the office building. McVeigh was a radical white supremacist who aimed to retaliate against the U.S. government's role in the Ruby Ridge and Waco sieges. He worked with another radical white supremacist named Terry Nichols, who helped construct the bomb used in the attack. McVeigh stated that the Waco siege was the main reason for the bombing, as he believed that the U.S. government was encroaching on citizens' Second Amendment rights. In a statement acknowledging the casualties, he said, quote, "I wanted the government to hurt like the people of Waco and Ruby Ridge had."
In April 1995, a bomb killed the president of a timber industry lobbying group. It was the Unabombers' last attack. The Unabomber sent a manifesto to the New York Times and the Washington Post, saying he would stop the killing if it were published. In 1995, the Washington Post published the Unabombers' manifesto, a 35,000-word thesis on what he perceived to be the problems with America's industrial and technological society. A man named David Kaczynski read the essay and recognized the ideas and language. They were those of his brother, Ted Kaczynski. David informed the FBI in February of 1996 that he suspected that his brother was the Unabomber. On April 3rd, Ted Kaczynski was arrested at his cabin in Montana, and extensive evidence, including a live bomb and an original copy of the manifesto, was discovered at the site. On January 22nd, Kaczynski pleaded guilty on all counts and was spared the death penalty. He showed no remorse for his crimes, and in May was sentenced to 4 life sentences plus 30 years.
Shifting from the tragedies of America, we move to the iconic music and pop culture that took the country. The early 1990s saw the rise of grunge music, with bands like Nirvana, Pearl Jam, and Soundgarden gaining popularity.
The 90s was really great music and movie time. You know, there was grunge music, there was Pearl Jam, there was, so many, I can't think, like Nirvana and all of that, and plus really good hip hop at the time too, so music was huge. Like Dr. Dre and everybody.
The mid-1990s marked a period of significant growth and influence for hip hop and rap music. Artists such as Tupac Shakur, the Notorious B.I.G., and Wu-Tang Clan gained widespread recognition and helped shape the direction of the genre. Boy bands became the new heartthrob for young women.
I remember in the mid-90s, when I was about 5th or 6th grade, it was the era of the boy bands starting in the U.S., so there was a big NSYNC versus Backstreet Boys debates, the Christina versus Britney debates, and all of the big pop culture shifts with music.
Not only were the 90s revolutionary for music, this time period was also a transformative period for video games. The emergence of 3D graphics, advancements in gaming consoles, such as the Sony PlayStation and Nintendo 64, and the popularity of games like Super Mario 64, that came out in 1996, and Final Fantasy VII, brought video games into the mainstream and expanded their cultural impact. Tiny, fidgetable toys became the new cool for younger children.
I was in elementary school, and the things that were really popular were Tamagotchis, and those were little machines that you had to keep alive, and they beeped all the time, and our teachers hated them.
Some of the most iconic movies were published in the early to mid-1990s. Jurassic Park, published in 1993 and directed by Steven Spielberg, became a massive blockbuster, showcasing groundbreaking visual effects and bringing dinosaurs back to life on the big screen.
But great movies during that time, I think like Forrest Gump, Cast Away. I can't even think of so many, but I just remember the movie theater was just always filled with great movies, and we can enjoy them all the time.
I show it to the kids every year. Historic, deals with the best time in America. When we had the space program going to the moon. Tom Hanks, can't go wrong with Tom Hanks. And it's a true story. Love it.
Pop culture began morphing and eventually became quite similar to what the new generation are familiar with. By 1996, the chaos was just beginning in America. That's on the next episode of The Century, America's Time. I'm Peter Jennings, and thank you for joining us.